The space station floated in the darkness between three star systems. It was called Horizon's Edge, and it was the largest structure ever built by the combined efforts of 12 different species. Today, it would host the most important meeting in human history. Yoon Hana stood at the observation window of the human ship, watching the massive station grow larger as they approached. She was 42 years old with sharp eyes and gray streaks in her black hair. She had spent 20 years as a diplomat, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. "Commander," a voice said behind her, "we will dock in 10 minutes." She turned to see Kang Tae standing in the doorway. He was her personal guard, a man of average height with a calm face and tired eyes. He wore simple combat armor that had seen better days. There were scratches and burn marks on the chest plate. He carried no fancy weapons, just a steel blade at his hip and a standard pistol. "Are you ready, Tae?" Hana asked. "I am always ready," he replied quietly. Park Woo, their engineer and tactical support, walked up behind Tae. He was younger than both of them, with nervous energy in his movements. "I've been reading the reports on the Tarani delegation. They're bringing 50 elite soldiers. 50? And we have," he looked at Tae, "one guard." "One is enough," Hana said firmly, but even she felt a small knot of worry in her stomach. The Tarani were an ancient species. They had been conquering star systems when humans were still living in caves on Earth. They were tall, powerful, and proud. Their warriors were legendary across the galaxy. And they had come to this summit with one clear message: surrender your border colonies or face war. Humanity was young. Only 200 years ago, humans had built their first ship capable of traveling faster than light. In that short time, they had spread to dozens of worlds. They had fought pirates, survived plagues, and built a coalition of colonies that stretched across an entire arm of the galaxy. But the Tarani did not care about any of this. To them, humans were children playing in a universe they did not understand. The human ship docked with a soft vibration. Hana straightened her uniform and took a deep breath. "Let's go make history," she said. The docking bay of Horizon's Edge was enormous. Ships from a dozen different species were parked in neat rows. Delegates walked in groups, speaking in languages that human translators struggled to understand. Some species floated, others crawled. A few existed as clouds of glowing particles. Hana led her small delegation through the crowds. Tai walked one step behind her, his eyes moving constantly, watching everything. Wu followed with a tablet in his hands, recording everything he saw. They entered the main hall of the station, and Hana stopped walking. The Tarani had arrived first. There were 50 of them, arranged in perfect formation. They wore armor that gleamed like liquid silver under the lights. Each one stood over 2 meters tall, with blue-gray skin and 4 arms. Their eyes were solid black, and their faces showed no emotion. At the front of the formation stood a woman. Lady Vessa was the daughter of High Commander Orath, leader of the Tarani fleet. She was considered the greatest warrior of her generation. In 300 years of life, she had fought 200 duels against champions from 12 different species. She had never lost. She was beautiful in a cold, dangerous way. Her armor was decorated with symbols of her victories. A plasma blade hung at her side, its handle worn smooth from centuries of use. Vessa's black eyes found Hana across the hall. Then they moved to Tai. She smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a predator looking at something small and weak. "So," Vessa said, her voice carrying across the silent hall, "the humans have arrived." She spoke in the common galactic language, but her accent made every word sound like an insult. Hana stepped forward. "Lady Vessa, it is an honor to finally meet you. I am Yoon Hana, representative of the Human Coalition." Vessa barely looked at her. Her eyes were still fixed on Tai. "And this?" she asked, gesturing at him with one of her 4 hands. "This is your guard?" "Kang Tai is my personal protector," Hana replied calmly. Vessa laughed. The sound echoed through the hall. It was not a polite laugh. It was loud and mocking. Several of her soldiers joined in, their deep voices creating a chorus of amusement. "This small creature is supposed to protect you?" Vessa walked closer, circling Tae like a predator examining prey. "His arms are thin. His armor is old. He looks like he has not slept in a year. She leaned down, bringing her face close to his. Are all human warriors so pathetic? Tay did not move. He did not speak. He simply looked at her with those tired, calm eyes. This seemed to amuse Vesa even more. She straightened and turned to her soldiers. I expected an army. They sent one tired old man. More laughter filled the hall. Kel, Vesa's personal bodyguard, watched the exchange with a different expression. He had studied humans before coming to this summit. He had read reports of their wars, their survival against impossible odds, their strange habit of refusing to surrender, even when logic demanded it. He did not laugh. Hana kept her face neutral, but inside she was burning with anger. Perhaps we should proceed to the negotiation chamber, she said. We have much to discuss. Vesa waved a hand dismissively. Yes, yes. Let us discuss how many of your little worlds you will give us. She turned and walked toward the chamber, her soldiers falling into formation behind her. Wu moved closer to Tay. How can you stay so calm? He whispered. She just insulted everything about you. Tay watched Vesa's back as she walked away. Words are just words, he said quietly. They only have power if you give it to them. But doesn't it make you angry? Tay was silent for a moment. Then he said, the loudest ones are usually the most afraid. They just don't know it yet. Hana looked at her guard with new curiosity. In 5 years of working together, she had never heard him speak so many words at once. As they walked toward the negotiation chamber, Vesa glanced back over her shoulder. She caught Tay's eye and smirked. This is what humans send to protect their leaders? She whispered to Kel. How pitiful. This summit will be over before it begins. Kel nodded but said nothing. He was still watching the human warrior. There was something in those tired eyes, something that the princess had not noticed, something dangerous. The negotiation chamber was a perfect circle of white stone. Floating platforms surrounded it, filled with delegates from across the galaxy. They had come to watch, to judge, to see if the young human species had any hope of surviving against the mighty Tarani Empire. Hana sat at the human table with Tai standing behind her and Wu at her side. Across from them, High Commander Orath sat on a throne-like chair. He was ancient, even by Tarani standards. His skin was darker than his daughter's, marked with scars from 1,000 battles. 400 years of conquest had made him patient and cold. Vesa stood beside her father, her arms crossed, a bored expression on her face. Let us not waste time with pleasantries, Orath said. His voice was deep and slow, like stones grinding together. The Tarani Empire claims the 3 border systems currently occupied by human colonies. You will withdraw your people within 1 standard year. Hana leaned forward. Those systems were empty when we arrived. We built those colonies with our own hands. We will not abandon them. Empty? Orath raised what passed for an eyebrow among his species. Those systems belong to the Tarani by right of ancient claim. Your presence there is illegal. Ancient claim? Wu muttered under his breath. They haven't visited those systems in 1,000 years. Hana kept her voice calm. High Commander, we are willing to discuss shared access, trade agreements, or joint development. But we will not simply give away worlds where human families have built their lives. Orath stared at her for a long moment. Then he made a sound that might have been a laugh. You speak as if you have a choice, little human. The Tarani fleet could destroy every human colony within a month. We offer you this peaceful solution as a kindness. A kindness, Hana repeated. You call stealing our homes a kindness. The chamber fell silent. No one spoke to the High Commander that way. Vesa stepped forward, her eyes bright with anger. Watch your tongue, human. You speak to the ruler of 100 systems. Your entire species is nothing but a footnote in our history. Vesa, her father said quietly. A warning. But Vesa was not finished. She had been bored since the moment she arrived at this summit. She had expected human generals, armies, someone worthy of her attention. Instead, she found this small woman and her tired guard. She wanted entertainment. Father, Vesa said, turning to Orath, these negotiations are pointless. The humans will never agree to our terms, and we both know we will take those systems by force if necessary. Let us settle this the old way. Orath studied his daughter. You wish to invoke the trial? I do. A murmur ran through the observation platforms. The trial by champion was an ancient galactic tradition. It dated back to a time when species settled disputes through single combat instead of costly wars. The tradition still held legal weight in galactic law. Hana felt her stomach tighten. What is this trial? Orath turned his black eyes to her. A simple challenge. Each side chooses a champion. They fight. The winner takes all. He paused. If your champion defeats my daughter, we will withdraw our claims to the border systems completely. You will have peace. And if we lose, Hana asked, then you surrender 5 systems instead of 3, and you pay tribute to the Tyranny Empire for the next 50 years. The chamber buzzed with whispered conversations. This was unprecedented. The Tyranny were offering to risk their claims on a single fight. It showed either supreme confidence or utter disrespect for humanity. Probably both, Hana thought quickly. She knew about Vessa's reputation. 200 victories. Champions from 12 species had fallen to her blade. Warriors with centuries of training, with enhanced bodies, with weapons beyond human imagination. All dead. I need time to consult with my government, Hana said. Vessa laughed again. That same cruel, mocking laugh. Time? For what? To find a champion among your short-lived species? Someone who has trained for perhaps 30 years instead of 300? She shook her head. It does not matter. Send whoever you want. The result will be the same. Before Hana could respond, Tay stepped forward. I accept, he said. The words fell like stones into still water. Hana turned sharply. Tay, what are you doing? My job, he replied calmly. Protecting you. Protecting our people. Vessa stared at him. For a moment she seemed unable to process what she had heard. Then she burst into laughter so loud that it echoed off the chamber walls. You? She walked toward him, her forearms spread wide in disbelief. The tired guard with the old armor? You wish to fight me? Tay said nothing. He simply watched her approach with those calm, patient eyes. Vessa circled him slowly. She examined him like a scientist examining a strange insect. She noted his average height, his lean build, his worn equipment. Nothing about him was impressive. Nothing about him suggested danger. Look at you, she said, speaking now to the entire chamber. This is humanity's champion. This is the best they have to offer. She reached out and tapped his chest plate with one finger. I have killed creatures twice your size. I have fought warriors who trained for centuries. You are nothing. She leaned close, her face inches from his. Any last words before I end your species' delusions of relevance? The chamber was completely silent. Everyone waited for the human to crumble, to apologize, to beg for mercy. Tay looked into her black eyes, and then slowly he bowed. It was a deep bow, formal and respectful. The kind of bow a student gives a teacher, the kind of bow that acknowledges an opponent's strength. Vessa froze. No one had ever bowed to her before a fight. They begged, they threatened, they boasted, but no one had ever shown her simple, genuine respect. She did not know how to respond. Orth watched from his throne, his ancient eyes unreadable. He had seen many warriors in his long life. He had learned to recognize dangerous ones, not by their size or their weapons, but by something deeper, a stillness, a patience. This human had it. The challenge is accepted, Orath announced. The trial will take place tomorrow at midday. May the strongest warrior win. As the chamber emptied, Wu grabbed Tay's arm. Have you lost your mind? She's going to kill you. She's killed 200 champions. Tay gently removed Wu's hand. Then I will be the 201st, or I will be the first to win. He looked at Hana. I'm sorry for speaking without your permission, Commander. But this was the only way. Hana studied his face. She saw no fear there. No doubt. Just quiet certainty. Why? She asked. Why are you so willing to die? Tay was silent for a moment. Then he said, because someone has to show them. Someone has to show the whole galaxy what humans are made of. Not our weapons, not our technology, but our spirit. He looked toward the door where Vessa had disappeared. She thinks we're weak because we're young. She's wrong. We're not weak. We're just getting started. Hana wanted to argue. She wanted to order him to withdraw, to find another way. But she saw something in his eyes that stopped her. Hope. Rest well tonight, she finally said. Tomorrow you carry the future of humanity on your shoulders. Tay nodded once. Then he walked away to prepare. In her quarters that night, Vesa sat alone, cleaning her plasma blade. She should have felt excited about the coming fight. She should have felt confident. Instead, she felt something she had not felt in a very long time. Uncertainty. That bow. That strange, respectful bow. It bothered her more than any threat or boast ever had. What kind of warrior bowed to the person about to kill him? She pushed the thought away and returned to her blade. Tomorrow would answer all questions. The arena was beautiful and terrible at the same time. It sat at the heart of Horizon's Edge, a perfect circle of white stone that had seen the blood of champions from 100 different worlds. Floating platforms surrounded it in rising tiers, filled with delegates from across the galaxy. Every species with a presence on the station had come to watch. The light came from nowhere and everywhere, bright and pure, leaving no shadows to hide in. The floor was smooth, polished by centuries of combat. At the edges, ancient symbols marked the boundary. To step outside was to surrender. Kang Tae stood in a small preparation room beneath the arena. Through a narrow window, he could hear the crowd above, thousands of voices speaking in dozens of languages. They were all here to see the same thing. They were here to see humanity humiliated. Wu helped him check his armor one final time. It was the same worn gear he always wore, clean but still showing its scars. Hana had offered him the best equipment the human coalition could provide, but Tai had refused. This armor knows me, he had said simply. We have survived together. Now Wu tightened the last strap and stepped back. I wish you would take a plasma weapon, something that could match her blade. Tai touched the handle of his sword. It was steel enhanced with human engineering to hold an edge that could cut through most materials. But it was still fundamentally a simple blade. Weapons do not win fights, Tai said. Warriors do. Wu shook his head. You sound like an old master from a historical drama. Maybe I am. Hana entered the room. Her face was calm, but Tai could see the worry in her eyes. She had not slept well. None of them had. It's almost time, she said. The Turani delegation is already in the arena. Vesa is... She paused. She's putting on quite a show. She needs an audience, Tai said. She needs people to fear her. That is where her power comes from. And where does your power come from? Tai thought about the question. He thought about his life, the battles he had fought, the friends he had lost, the moments when death had been so close he could feel its breath on his neck. From having nothing left to fear, he said quietly. A chime sounded. It was time. The walk to the arena felt longer than it should have. Tai's footsteps echoed in the stone corridor. Ahead, he could see light spilling through the entrance. He could hear the crowd growing louder. He stepped into the arena. The noise hit him like a wave. Thousands of beings all looking down at him, all waiting to see him fall. The platform stretched up into the light, filled with faces he did not recognize. But one face he did recognize. Vesa stood on the opposite side of the arena. She looked like a goddess of war. Her armor gleamed like liquid silver, decorated with gems that represented each of her 200 victories. Her plasma blade hung at her side, its handle wrapped in leather made from the skin of a creature she had killed centuries ago. She was magnificent, she was terrifying, and she was smiling. Welcome, little human, she called out, her voice amplified to reach every corner of the arena. I was worried you would not come. I thought perhaps you had realized your mistake and run away. Tai walked to the center of the arena. His footsteps were steady. His breathing was calm. I am here, he said. His voice was not amplified, but the arena's design carried sound perfectly. Everyone heard him. Vesa began to circle, moving with the grace of a predator. Look at you. Worn armor, old sword, tired eyes. She shook her head in mock sadness. Is this really the best humanity has? Are there no true warriors among your people? Tai did not respond. He simply turned to keep facing her, his stance relaxed but ready. The humans I have studied, Vesa continued, they are a strange species. They live such short lives, 80 years, perhaps 100 if they are lucky. What can you learn in such a brief time? What can you master? She drew her plasma blade. It hummed to life, glowing with blue-white energy. The temperature in the arena seemed to rise. I have trained with this weapon for 200 years, she said. I have perfected every technique. I have studied every fighting style in the galaxy. You have had, what, 20 years? 30? 32, Tay said. Vesa laughed. 32 years. A child playing with a sword. She raised her blade, letting the light catch its deadly edge. This plasma blade was forged in the heart of a dying star. It has cut through the strongest armor ever made. Your little steel sword will not even slow it down. Tay drew his weapon. The simple steel caught the light differently, reflecting it in cold, clean lines. He held it in a two-handed grip, the blade angled toward the ground. An interesting stance, Vesa admitted. I do not recognize it. It is human, Tay said. Human. She said the word like it was a joke. A human fighting style, developed in a few thousand years of hitting each other with rocks and sticks. She shook her head. I have seen fighting styles from species that were ancient when your son was young. Do you really think your primitive techniques can match them? Tay said nothing. He simply waited. This annoyed Vesa. She was used to opponents who talked back, who threatened, who boasted. This silence, this patience, it was strange, unsettling. She pushed the feeling aside. It did not matter what this human did or said. The result would be the same. High Commander Orth's voice boomed from above. The trial by champion will now begin. The fight ends when one warrior surrenders, is unable to continue, or dies. There are no other rules. May the strongest prevail. The crowd fell silent. Every eye focused on the two figures in the circle of white stone. Vesa raised her blade in a formal salute. It was tradition among her people, a sign of respect for the coming death. Tay returned the salute with his own blade. Simple, clean. A tone sounded. The fight had begun. Vesa did not move immediately. She watched Tay, looking for any sign of fear, any twitch that would reveal his intentions. She saw nothing. His face was calm. His body was still. You do not attack, she observed. Are you afraid? No, Tay said. Then why do you wait? For the first time since entering the arena, Tay spoke more than a few words. I have read your battle records, and he said, 200 victories. Impressive. But I noticed something, Lady Vesa. Something interesting. She tilted her head. And what is that? You have never fought anyone who was not afraid of you. The words hung in the air. Vesa's smile faltered, just for a moment. What did you say? Your opponents, Tay continued, his voice calm and steady. They hesitated. They second-guessed themselves. They were already defeated before the fight began, because they believed you were invincible. He adjusted his grip on his sword. I am not afraid of you, Lady Vesa. She stared at him. No one had ever spoken to her this way before a fight. No one. You should be afraid, she said, but her voice had lost some of its mockery. Tay shook his head slowly. I have fought things in the dark spaces between stars that would make your ancestors weep. I have held dying friends in my arms on worlds you have never heard of. I have seen humanity survive extinction 3 times. He took a single step forward, just one, but it carried weight. You think we are weak because we are young? We are not weak. We are hungry. Every human soldier carries 10,000 years of war in their blood. We did not survive our own planet by being soft. Vesa's expression hardened. The amusement was gone. In its place was something else. Recognition. This human was not prey. Brave word, she said. But words do not win fights. Tay lowered into his stance, his blade steady, his eyes never leaving hers. Then let us stop talking. The crowd held its breath, and Vesa charged. Vesa moved like lightning wrapped in silver. 300 years of combat training exploded into motion. Her forearms worked in perfect harmony, her plasma blade cutting arcs of burning light through the air. She crossed the distance between them in less than a second. Her first strike was aimed at Tay's neck. It was her signature move, the opening attack that had ended dozens of duels before they truly began. Champions with centuries of experience had fallen to this strike. Warriors enhanced with the best technology in the galaxy had died before they could react. Tay did not die. He moved. It was not a dramatic dodge or an acrobatic leap. He simply shifted his weight, turned his shoulders, and let the plasma blade pass within millimeters of his throat. He felt the heat of it on his skin, close enough to leave a faint burn. Then he struck back. His steel blade whipped upward in a simple counterattack. Vesa blocked it with one of her lower arms. But the force of the impact surprised her. She had expected human strength to be nothing compared to hers. She was wrong. Tay pressed forward. His blade became a blur of motion, each strike flowing into the next with mechanical precision. He attacked high, low, left, right, never giving her a moment to reset. Vesa retreated 3 steps before she caught herself. 3 steps. She had not retreated in a fight for over a century. The crowd murmured in disbelief. "Interesting," Vesa admitted, her voice no longer mocking. "You are faster than you look." Tay did not respond. He was already moving again. This time Vesa was ready. She met his attack with her own, her plasma blade clashing against his steel. Sparks flew. The sound of metal meeting energy echoed through the arena. They exchanged a dozen blows in the space of 3 seconds. Kel watched from the Tirani platform, his black eyes wide. He had seen Vesa fight many times. He had never seen anyone match her speed in the opening moments of combat. Beside him, High Commander Orath leaned forward slightly. It was the only sign of his interest, but Kel knew his commander well enough to understand what it meant. The old warrior was impressed. In the arena, Vesa changed tactics. She used her 4 arms to their full advantage, attacking from multiple angles at once. A human warrior with only 2 arms should not have been able to defend against this. But Tay did. He read her movements, predicting where each strike would land before she threw it. His blade was always in the right place at the right time. He did not try to block every attack. He deflected some, dodged others, and accepted the ones that would cause the least damage. One of her strikes got through. Her blade scored a line across his left arm, burning through armor and skin. Blood flowed. Tay did not even flinch. He used the moment of her successful attack to strike back. His blade found a gap in her defense and cut a shallow wound across her ribs. Vesa hissed and leaped backward. First blood, on both of them. "You wounded me," she said. There was genuine surprise in her voice. "No one has wounded me in 40 years. "I plan to do more than wound you," Tay replied. They began to circle each other. Both were breathing harder now. Both had seen what the other was capable of. On the human platform, Wu was practically vibrating with nervous energy. He is keeping up with her. I cannot believe it. He is actually keeping up. Hana watched in silence. Her hands were gripped together so tightly that her knuckles had turned white. She had known Tai was skilled. She had never imagined he was this skilled. "Who is he?" she whispered to herself. "Who is he really?" In the arena, Vesa was asking herself a similar question. This human was not fighting like any opponent she had faced before. He did not use the careful, defensive styles of the elder races. He did not rely on strength or speed alone. He fought like something wild and unpredictable, mixing techniques that should not work together. And his eyes, those tired, calm eyes never changed. Whether attacking or defending, whether bleeding or striking, they remained steady, focused, utterly without fear. It was unnerving. "You are full of surprises," Vesa said. "But surprises will not save you. I have fought for 3 centuries. You cannot outlast me." She attacked again, faster this time, using every trick she had learned in 300 years of combat. Her plasma blade became a storm of light and heat. Tay met the storm. He took hits. Burns appeared on his arms, his legs, his chest. Blood soaked through his armor in half a dozen places. Any normal warrior would have collapsed by now. But humans were not normal. Wu had studied human physiology extensively. He knew things about his own species that most people never learned. He knew that humans could ignore pain in ways that other species found impossible. He knew that human bodies could continue fighting long after they should have stopped. He knew that humans were, in their own way, monsters. Tay proved it now. Every wound seemed to make him faster, not slower. Every hit he took was paid back with a strike of his own. He was bleeding from a dozen cuts, but so was Vesa. And Vesa was starting to slow down. Not by much. Not enough for anyone watching to notice. But Tay noticed. He saw the slight hesitation before her strikes. He saw the tiny adjustments in her footwork that revealed her growing fatigue. She was not used to fights that lasted this long. Her opponents usually died in the first minute. She had never needed to pace herself. She had never needed to conserve energy. Tay had spent his entire life conserving energy. Humans had evolved on a planet that tried to kill them in 1,000 different ways. They had learned to endure. Now that endurance was his greatest weapon. "Why will you not fall?" Vesa demanded, frustration creeping into her voice. "I have wounded you 100 times. Any other warrior would be dead." Tay blocked her next strike and countered with a cut that opened a new wound on her arm. "Then I am not any other warrior." He pressed his attack, driving her back step by step. His movements were slower than before, but they were relentless. He did not give her time to rest, time to recover, time to think. Vesa felt something she had not felt in centuries: doubt. This human should not exist. Warriors like him should not exist. How could a species so young, so short-lived, produce someone like this? She remembered what he had said before the fight began. Every human soldier carries 10,000 years of war in their blood. She had dismissed it as empty boasting. Now she understood. Humans were not weak. They were compressed. Everything that other species spread across centuries of life, humans compressed into decades. They learned faster. They adapted faster. They burned brighter. And when they fought with everything they had. Vesa launched one final desperate attack. She poured all her remaining strength into a combination that had never failed her. 12 strikes in perfect sequence, each one designed to create an opening for the next. Tay blocked the first 11. The 12th struck him across the chest, burning through armor and flesh. He staggered. Vesa raised her blade for the killing blow, and Tay smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible through the blood and sweat on his face, but it was real. In that moment of hesitation, he struck. His blade found the gap she had created by raising her weapon. It cut deep into her shoulder, severing muscles that she needed to control her primary arms. Her plasma blade fell from nerveless fingers. Vesa looked down at the weapon on the ground. Then she looked up at Tay. The arena was completely silent. "Impossible," she whispered. Tay stood unsteadily, blood dripping from too many wounds to count, but his blade was at her throat. "Yield," he said. It was not a demand. It was not a threat. It was simply a word, spoken quietly, warrior to warrior. Vesa stared into those tired, calm eyes. She saw no hatred there, no triumph, no cruelty, only respect. And that, more than the blade at her throat, more than the wound in her shoulder, more than the shock of losing, was what truly froze her. She had laughed at him when she first saw him. Now she understood how wrong she had been. About everything. The silence in the arena was absolute. Thousands of beings from dozens of species sat frozen in their seats. They had come expecting a quick execution. They had expected to see the young human species humiliated, to witness another easy victory for the legendary Lady Vesa. Instead, they saw something impossible. The undefeated champion of the Tyranni Empire stood with a blade at her throat. Blood ran from the wound in her shoulder, dripping onto the white stone floor. Her plasma sword lay useless at her feet, and the human still stood. He should not have been standing. The wounds covering his body would have killed most warriors. His armor was torn in a dozen places. Blood soaked through the fabric underneath, spreading in dark stains that grew larger with each passing second. But Kang Tay stood. His blade did not waver. On the human platform, Park Wu had his hand pressed against his mouth. Tears ran down his face, though he did not seem to notice. Beside him, Yoon Hana stood completely still, afraid that any movement might break whatever magic had made this moment possible. On the Tyranni platform, High Commander Orath rose slowly from his throne. It was the first time anyone could remember seeing him stand for any warrior other than his daughter. 7 minutes, Kel said quietly. The duel lasted 7 minutes. Orath did not respond. His ancient eyes were fixed on the scene below, studying the human with an intensity that made those around him nervous. In the arena, Vessa's mind was racing. She tried to understand what had happened. She replayed the fight in her memory, searching for the moment when everything had gone wrong. But there was no single moment, no mistake she could point to and say that was when she lost. The human had simply refused to lose. Every time she had wounded him, he had continued fighting. Every time she had pushed him back, he had come forward again. Every advantage she had gained, he had stolen back. It was not fair. It was not logical. Warriors were supposed to fall when they were wounded badly enough. Bodies were supposed to fail when they took too much damage. But humans, it seemed, did not follow those rules. How? Vessa heard herself ask. Her voice was hoarse, barely above a whisper. How are you still standing? Tay's blade remained steady at her throat. Because I decided to stand. That is not an answer. It is the only answer that matters. Vessa felt something strange in her chest. It took her a moment to recognize it as respect. Real respect, not the false kind that came from fear or politics. This human had earned something from her that no one else had earned in 3 centuries. Your people, she said slowly, they are all like you? Tay considered the question. Some are stronger, some are weaker, but all of us share one thing. He met her eyes. We do not know how to give up. Our history is filled with moments when we should have died, when logic said we had no chance, but we survived anyway. That is not possible. Statistics, probability, the laws of the universe do not apply to us the way they apply to others. A small smile touched Ty's bloody lips. We are humans. We are too stubborn to follow the rules. Above them, the crowd began to stir. Whispers turned to murmurs. Murmurs turned to a rising wave of sound as the reality of what had happened began to sink in. The human had won. No, that was not quite right. The human had done something more than win. He had done the impossible. He had defeated the greatest warrior of the Turani Empire, a champion with 300 years of experience and 200 victories. He had changed everything. On the observation platforms, delegates from a dozen species looked at each other with new expressions. Some showed fear. Humanity was supposed to be a young, weak species. Easy to push around, easy to ignore. If one human could defeat Lady Vessa, what could 1,000,000 humans do? What could 1 billion of them do? Other delegates showed something different. Interest, curiosity, perhaps even hope. The galaxy had been dominated by the ancient species for too long. The Turani, the Velkans, the Mindari, they had carved up the stars between them and left nothing for anyone else. Perhaps these humans, these young, stubborn, impossible humans, would change that. Hannah saw these reactions from her platform. Her diplomatic mind was already working, calculating the implications, planning the next moves. This moment would reshape galactic politics for generations. But right now, all she cared about was the wounded man standing in the arena below. Tay, she whispered, though he could not hear her. Please, that is enough. You have done enough. As if responding to her unspoken plea, the scene below began to change. Vessa slowly lowered her head. It was a gesture of surrender, the universal sign that a warrior was yielding to a superior opponent. I yield, she said. The words seemed to cost her something. Her voice cracked slightly. The victory is yours, human. Tay lowered his blade. But he did not step back. He did not gloat. He did not even allow the pain of his wounds to show on his face. Instead, he did something that shocked everyone watching. He sheathed his sword and extended his hand. Vessa stared at the offered hand. She did not understand. By the rules of the trial, Tay had the right to claim her life. She had wounded him terribly. She had mocked him before the entire galaxy. She had called his species weak and pathetic. And now he was offering to help her rise. What is this? She asked. A hand, Tay said simply. I see that. Why are you offering it? Because you fought well. Tay's voice was steady despite his wounds. Because victory means nothing if I do not show respect to a worthy opponent. Because killing you would prove nothing except that I can kill. Vessa felt the strange feeling in her chest grow stronger. This was not how warriors behaved. This was not how enemies treated each other after battle. I laughed at you, she said. I mocked your people. I treated you like dirt beneath my feet. Yes. And you would help me rise anyway? Tay nodded. That is what humans do. We fight hard, but we know how to forgive. We know how to move forward. We know that enemies can become allies if both sides choose to try. The arena remained silent. Every being watched this exchange with complete attention. Vesa looked at the hand for a long moment. She thought about everything she had believed about humans. She thought about 3 centuries of certainty that the Turani were superior to all other species. She thought about the comfortable lies that had shaped her understanding of the universe. Then she reached out and took his hand. Tay helped her to her feet. They stood face to face, both wounded, both bleeding, both changed by what had happened between them. You are a strange species, Vesa said quietly so only he could hear. We prefer the term interesting, Tay replied. For the first time since they had met, Vesa laughed. Not the cruel, mocking laugh she had used before. This was something genuine, something surprised out of her by the absurdity of the situation. High Commander Oreth's voice echoed through the arena. The trial is concluded. The human warrior is victorious. The Taurani Empire acknowledges its defeat. The words sent shockwaves through the crowd. The Taurani had never publicly acknowledged a defeat. They had never admitted that another species could match them in combat. Until now. Orth continued. By the terms agreed before the trial, all Taurani claims to the border systems are withdrawn. Humanity shall have peace. On the human platform, Wu collapsed into his seat. We did it, he said, half laughing, half crying. We actually did it. Hana did not respond. She was already moving toward the arena floor. She needed to reach Tai before he collapsed. She could see the blood pooling at his feet, could see the slight tremor in his legs that told her he was staying upright through pure will alone. The crowd began to chant. At first it was just a few voices, but it grew quickly, humans and their allies, shouting words of triumph. Other species joining in, celebrating the fall of Taurani arrogance. But in the center of the arena, Tay heard none of it. His vision was growing dark around the edges. The pain he had been ignoring was finally catching up with him. His body was demanding payment for the abuse it had suffered. You are going to fall, Vesa observed. Perhaps, Tay admitted, but not until I leave this arena. Why does that matter? Tay smiled through the blood on his face. Because humans do not fall in front of their enemies. We fall later, in private, where no one can see. Vesa shook her head in disbelief. You really are insane. Possibly, but we are alive. And now, perhaps, we can be allies instead of enemies. Vesa looked at the human standing before her, wounded, bleeding, barely conscious, but still standing, still fighting, still refusing to show weakness. Perhaps we can, she said softly. And for the first time in 300 years, she meant it. Kang Tay did not remember leaving the arena. He remembered Vesa standing beside him. He remembered the crowd chanting. He remembered taking one step, then another, walking toward the exit with the last of his strength. Then there was only darkness. He woke up in a medical bay, surrounded by machines he did not recognize. Light pressed against his closed eyelids. He heard beeping, humming, the soft sound of someone breathing nearby. He is waking up, a voice said. Wu. Give him space, another voice replied. Hana. Tay opened his eyes. The ceiling above him was white and smooth. He tried to sit up, but his body refused to cooperate. Everything hurt. His arms, his legs, his chest, even breathing sent waves of pain through his ribs. Easy, Hana said, appearing in his vision. Her face was lined with worry, but there was something else there too. Pride. You almost died 3 times during surgery. The doctors said they have never seen a human survive wounds like yours. Tay managed a weak smile. Humans are stubborn. So I have learned. Wu appeared on his other side, his eyes red from lack of sleep. You have been unconscious for 2 days. The entire galaxy is talking about what happened. Every news channel, every diplomatic message, every conversation, all about you. Tay closed his eyes. He did not want to be famous. He had never wanted attention. He was a soldier, a guard, a protector. Nothing more. The tyranny, he said. What happened with them? Hana and Wu exchanged glances. A lot has happened, Hana said carefully. High Commander Orath has been in contact with our government. He wants to talk about more than just peace. More? An alliance. A real one, not just a treaty. Trade agreements, military cooperation, shared technology. She paused. He says that any species that can produce a warrior like you deserves to be treated as an equal. Tay let out a long breath. An alliance with the tyranny. A year ago, it would have been impossible. The ancient empire did not ally with anyone. They conquered or ignored. There was no middle ground, until now. And Lady Vessa, Tay asked. Hana's expression became harder to read. She has asked to speak with you, several times. The doctors have been keeping everyone out, but she is persistent. As if on cue, the door to the medical bay slid open. A Tirani figure strode in, ignoring the protests of the human medical staff. It was Vessa. She looked different. Her armor was gone, replaced by simple civilian clothes. Her shoulder was wrapped in healing bandages, similar to the ones covering Tay's wounds. But the biggest change was in her face. The arrogance was gone. In its place was something Tay had never expected to see from her. Uncertainty, vulnerability. You are awake, Vessa said. It was not a question. I am, Tay replied. Hana moved toward the door. I will give you two some privacy. She gave Tay a meaningful look. Try not to start another fight. I am too tired to fight. That has never stopped you before. Hana left, pulling Wu with her, despite his obvious desire to stay and watch. The door closed behind them. Vessa stood at the foot of Tay's bed, her forearms crossed in a pose that was almost defensive. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. I have never lost before, Vessa finally said. In 300 years of fighting, I always won. I thought I was invincible. I thought nothing in this galaxy could match me. And now, Tay asked, now I do not know what to think. She unfolded her arms and began to pace, her movements restless. My entire understanding of the universe has been shattered. Everything I believed about strength, about power, about what makes a warrior great, it was wrong. Tay watched her pace. You are not wrong about strength or power. You are one of the most skilled warriors I have ever faced. If we fought again, you might win. Vessa stopped pacing. Then how did I lose? Because skill is not everything. Tay shifted slightly, wincing at the pain the movement caused. You are faster than me, stronger than me. You have more experience than I will ever have, but you have never fought someone who had nothing left to lose. You have nothing to lose. Not nothing, but I have learned to let go of the fear of losing. Tay met her eyes. Your opponents were afraid because they believed you were invincible. That fear made them slow. It made them hesitate. It gave you power over them before the fight even began. Vessa nodded slowly. And you were not afraid? I was terrified, Tay admitted, but I fought anyway. That is the human way. We feel fear like any other species. We simply refuse to let it control us. Vessa moved closer, pulling a chair beside his bed and sitting down. It was an oddly informal gesture, something a friend would do rather than an enemy. I have spent the last 2 days thinking about what you said in the arena, she said, about how humanity has survived extinction 3 times. I did not believe you at first. I thought it was boasting. It was not boasting. I know that now. I researched your history. She shook her head in disbelief. Your planet tried to kill your species over and over again. Ice ages, volcanic events, diseases, wars. You should have died out 100 times, but you kept surviving. We are very hard to kill, Tay agreed, and now you are reaching for the stars. Vessa leaned forward. My species has been among the stars for 50,000 years. We have seen hundreds of new species rise and fall. Most of them are forgotten now, just footnotes in our histories. You thought humanity would be another footnote. Yes, she paused. I was wrong. After watching you in that arena, after seeing what one human could do, I realized something. What? Vessa's black eyes met his. Humanity is going to change everything. Your species is going to reshape this galaxy, and there is nothing anyone can do to stop you." The words hung in the air between them. Tay had never thought about humanity in those terms. He was just one soldier, doing his duty. The idea that his species would change the galaxy seemed too large to comprehend. "Is that why your father wants an alliance?" he asked. Vesa nodded. "My father is old and wise. He has seen empires rise and fall. He recognizes potential when he sees it." A small smile touched her lips. "He also knows that it is better to be the ally of a rising power than its enemy." "And what do you want?" The question seemed to surprise her. She was quiet for a moment, considering her answer. "I want to understand," she finally said. "I want to know what makes humans what you are. I want to learn how you took a species so young and so fragile and turned it into something that could defeat me. That might take a long time. I have lived for 3 centuries. I have plenty of time." Tay studied her face. The arrogance was truly gone. In its place was genuine curiosity, genuine interest. She was not pretending. She really wanted to understand. "You know," Tay said slowly, "when I first saw you in that hall, I thought you were exactly what you appeared to be. A proud warrior from a proud species, looking down on everyone else. I was exactly that. But now I see something different. I see someone who is willing to change, someone who can admit when they were wrong." He paused. "That is rare among any species. It is something worthy of respect." Vesa blinked. Of all the things she had expected him to say, that was not one of them. "You continue to surprise me, human. I have a name. It is Kang Tay." "I know your name." "Then use it." Vesa considered this for a moment. Then she nodded. "Very well, Kang Tay. And you may call me Vesa. Just Vesa, not lady." It was a small gesture, but both of them understood its significance. Titles were barriers. First names were bridges. They were building a bridge. "There is something I need to tell you," Vesa said. "I have spoken with my father about our future relationship with humanity. He has agreed to my request." "What request?" "I will serve as the first Tirani ambassador to Earth." She paused. "I have never been to your world. I want to see where warriors like you come from." Tay was silent for a moment. Then, despite the pain in his ribs, he laughed. "What is funny?" Vesa demanded. "Nothing. Everything." He shook his head. "2 days ago, you wanted to kill me. Now you want to visit my planet. The universe is strange." "Yes," Tay agreed. "It certainly is." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Outside the medical bay, the station continued its slow orbit. The galaxy continued its endless dance of stars and darkness. And somewhere, in that vast expanse, 2 species that should have been enemies were beginning to become something else, something better. 6 months had passed since the duel that changed the galaxy. In those 6 months, Kang Tay had become a legend. His name was spoken in hushed tones across 1,000 worlds. Humans held him up as a hero, proof that their species could stand against any enemy. Other species saw him as a warning, a reminder not to underestimate the young civilization from the small blue planet. Tai ignored all of it. He returned to his duties as soon as his wounds healed. He stood guard behind Yun Hana at diplomatic meetings. He trained young soldiers in the arts of combat. He lived the same quiet life he had always lived. The only difference was the scar. It stretched across his chest, a permanent reminder of Vesa's plasma blade. Sometimes, late at night, he would trace its edges with his fingers and remember those 7 minutes in the arena. He remembered how close he had come to dying. He remembered the moment when Vesa's blade had burned through his armor. He remembered thinking that this was the end. But it had not been the end. It had been a beginning. Today, Tay stood on a mountain peak in the southern region of Korea. The sun was rising over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Below him, forests stretched as far as he could see. Above him, the stars were fading as morning light spread across the world. This was his home. This was the planet that had created humanity. And for the first time in its history, it was about to welcome a visitor from the stars. A soft sound made him turn. Footsteps approached through the morning mist. Careful and measured. A figure emerged from the shadow of the trees. Vesa looked different than she had on Horizon's Edge. She wore simple human clothing that Hana had helped her choose. Her forearms were hidden beneath a specially designed coat. Her blue-gray skin was covered with makeup that made her look almost human in the dim light. Almost, but not quite. "You are here early," she said. "I always come here to watch the sunrise," Tay replied. "It helps me think." Vesa walked to stand beside him. She looked out at the view, her black eyes reflecting the golden light. "Your planet is beautiful. I did not expect it to be so alive. Earth has been trying to kill us since we evolved," Tay said. "But we love it anyway. That is the human way." They stood in silence for a moment, watching the sun climb higher. The past 6 months had been intense. The alliance between humanity and the Tyranny Empire had moved faster than anyone expected. Trade agreements were signed. Technology was shared. Military cooperation began. It was not always easy. 300 years of Tyranny superiority did not disappear overnight. There were those in the Empire who still looked down on humans, who still believed the alliance was a mistake. There were those who called Vesa a traitor for losing to a human. But High Commander Orith supported the alliance with all his ancient authority, and Vesa worked tirelessly to build bridges between the two species. She had learned many things about humanity in these 6 months. She had learned that humans laughed at danger. They made jokes about death. They celebrated failure as a step toward success. They turned their greatest disasters into stories of triumph. She had learned that humans loved deeply and fought fiercely for those they loved. She had seen human parents sacrifice everything for their children. She had seen human soldiers die for strangers. She had seen human hearts break and heal and break again. She had learned that humans were fragile and strong at the same time. Their bodies could be destroyed so easily, but their spirits were made of something harder than any material she had ever encountered. Most of all, she had learned that the universe was bigger and stranger and more wonderful than she had ever imagined. "I have a question," Vesa said, breaking the silence. "Ask," Tay replied. "When we fought in the arena, you said you were not afraid of dying, but everyone fears death. It is the most basic instinct in any species. How did you overcome it?" Tay considered the question. The sun was fully above the horizon now, warming his face. "I did not overcome it," he finally said. "I just accepted it. I do not understand. Humans live short lives. Even with modern medicine, we have perhaps 100 years, maybe 150 if we are lucky." He turned to look at her. "You have lived for 300 years. You could live for 300 more. To you, death is a distant thing, something that happens to other people." Vesa nodded slowly. "That is true. But to us, death is always close. We feel it breathing on our necks every day. We see it take our friends, our family, everyone we love." Tay's voice was soft but steady. "So we learn to accept it. We learn to live each day as if it might be our last. And when death finally comes, we greet it as an old friend rather than a strange enemy. That is a sad way to live." "No," Tay said. "It is the only way to truly live. When you are not afraid of dying, you are free to do what needs to be done. You are free to fight when others run. You are free to love without holding back. You are free to be truly alive." Vesa was quiet for a long time. She thought about her own life, her centuries of combat, her endless pursuit of victory. She had been afraid to lose because losing meant the end of her legend. She had been afraid to change because change meant admitting she was wrong. But this human had shown her a different way. "Your species is insane," she said finally. Tay laughed. It was a real laugh, warm and genuine. "We prefer the term persistent. That is what you said in the arena. It is still true." They watched the sun together as it climbed into the sky. Birds began to sing in the trees below. A cool wind blew across the mountain, carrying the scent of flowers. "I spoke with my father yesterday," Vesa said. "He asked me how the alliance was progressing. I told him it was the best decision the Tyranny Empire has ever made. Do you believe that?" "I do." She turned to face him. "Humanity is going to change everything, Kang Tay. Your species is going to reach further and faster than any that came before. In 1,000 years, humans will be everywhere. You will spread across this galaxy and beyond. And the Tyranny, we will be there beside you." A smile touched her lips. "As allies, as friends, perhaps even as family." when our species have learned to truly understand each other. Tay nodded. That is a future worth fighting for. It is a future worth living for. They stood in comfortable silence as the morning grew brighter. The world below them woke up. Cities came to life. Ships launched into orbit. Billions of humans started another day of work and play and love and loss. And above them, the stars waited, patient, endless, full of possibilities that neither species could yet imagine. I should go, Vesa said eventually. I have meetings with your planetary council. They want to discuss trade routes. Will I see you again? Vesa smiled. It was still strange to see a Tarani smile, but Tai had grown used to it. You will see me often, Kang Tai. I have decided to make Earth my permanent home. Really, really, your planet is beautiful. Your people are fascinating, and she hesitated. And I have found something here that I never found in 300 years of traveling the galaxy. What is that? Purpose. She looked out at the rising sun. My entire life, I fought to prove that I was the greatest warrior. I fought for glory and fame and legend. But now I want to fight for something more. I want to help build something that will last longer than any legend. What do you want to build? A future, Vesa said simply. A future where humans and Tarani work together. A future where strength is measured by what you create, not what you destroy. A future where species like mine stop looking down on species like yours, and we all reach for the stars as equals. Tay felt something shift in his chest. Not pain this time, but something warmer. That sounds like a future worth fighting for, he said. Then let us fight for it together. She extended one of her hands. It was a human gesture, something she had learned since coming to Earth. Tay took her hand and shook it firmly. Two warriors, two species, two very different histories, but one future. As the sun rose over Earth, as ships launched into the sky, as the galaxy continued its endless dance of stars and time, something new was being born. Something that had never existed before. A partnership forged in combat, a friendship born from mutual respect, an alliance that would change everything. It had started with a laugh, a proud warrior princess mocking a tired human guard. And it had ended here, two equals standing on a mountain, watching the dawn. Vesa finally understood what made humans dangerous. It was not their strength or their weapons or their short, brilliant lives. It was their absolute, unshakable refusal to accept defeat. And now that refusal, that stubborn human spirit, was no longer something to fear. It was something to admire, something to learn from, something to build a future with. The sun continued to rise, the galaxy continued to turn, and humanity, as it always had, continued to reach for the stars. This time, they would not reach alone.